Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fierce Conversations with Toby, the show where we discover the silver lining in life's most difficult stories. I'm your host, Toby Dorr. Today, my guest on Fierce Conversations with Toby is my friend, Karen Mitchell Grant. And I was trying to remember, Karen, how we met. And I think you were putting together some kind of a social group you wanted to create, and you reached out on Facebook and asked if people were interested.
Yeah. I was putting together a social group on
Ah,
trauma, and I wanted to see what people thought about
uh-huh.
trauma because some people have the idea that it's a small T and a big
Ah,
T. And I wanted to see where the thoughts were because to me, um, trauma is
mm-hmm.
trauma. And it's all in how the person responds or reacts, whether it may be considered large or
I
small.
see. Yes, I remember we talked then, and then we stayed in touch. And I know I spent a lot of time talking to you about your mom at one point because your mom was an amazing, strong woman who I'm hoping to use in one of my future works. Um, but
Yes.
today, I want to talk to you. I've been following you on Facebook, and you just ran a marathon with your son and
I
your
ran
daughter.
and my daughter. Yeah. It was a
Wow.
5K that we did. I wish I could say it was a marathon, but I cannot. It was a 5K, and we did it for my son's, dental,
Ah,
practice. Um, this his dentist works only with, adults that are,
mm-hmm.
disabled, and so we had seen the marathon because we've been with her for a good time, and I had never participated. And I decided that this year I was going to. And so my daughter wanted to join in, and so then it became a family affair.
I think that's beautiful, and I saw the pictures, and so tell us a little bit about your son, William.
William is, he's my oldest child or, adult. I keep calling
Yes,
them children,
they're
but they're not
always
children
children,
anymore.
aren't they? Yeah.
And, he is, wonderful. Okay, so I'm a
Uh-huh.
little prejudiced. He's wonderful. He's 33 years old. And he's what, is considered in the world, I guess,
Mhm.
special needs. He's autistic. He's also, I'm gonna put it this way, he's diagnosed with autism, blindness, and
Okay.
nonverbal. And, um, but when you're around him, you would not, you just don't even remember that, but that is,
Mhm.
that's what's diagnosed with him. And so when I got ready to do this run, I told him what I was doing, and the next thing you know, we were training, and it became a family
I
affair,
think
and
that's beautiful, and so
I
you
loved it. I
pushed William in a wheelchair through the race, and the reason why he's in a wheelchair
did.
is because he's blind, and it would be too difficult to lead him through and not hit any obstacles, so yeah.
Yeah. We instead of it taking us an hour and 15 minutes, it would have taken us 4 hours if we had to walk it. So and it was
Oh,
all
wow.
hills,
It's
Toby.
always hills,
It
isn't
was
it?
all hills. Oh my goodness, but these look like
Wow.
mountains. And the thing about it is I had called and I said, "Well, what's the, what's it look like? What's the terrain like?" He said, "Oh, it's relatively flat." So I thought, "Okay, we're
Mhm.
fine." Well, it was so good, and we had so many experiences while going up the hills. It was as if God had said, um, "Look, Karen, I'm gonna send you some earth angels to come alongside you, and they are going to help you up this hill." And this is no joke, Toby. There were at least 8 to 12 people that helped us up those
Wow.
hills, pushed William up the hill, and one woman's name was
Oh, wow.
Grace. And all the way up the hill, Grace stayed with us. It was such a beautiful
I love that.
experience of just Your help comes when you
Yes.
don't even
Ri
realize that you
I
need
talk
that
about
much help.
grace a lot in my memoir, Living with Conviction, because I really do believe that grace got me through. I mean, it kept me alive. It saved my life in 2 separate instances that I
Yeah.
know of.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's beautiful that you literally and figuratively had grace helping you up those hills. I think that
Yes. And this was the thing, when coming out of the I call it the chute, coming out of the
Mhm.
chute, right? Um, Usually when you start a race, it's flat. I mean, really flat. Well, coming out, it started up the hill. To get out of the driveway, you had to go
Wow.
up a hill. So I said to my daughter, I said, "Oh, Sarah, I don't think that we have trained for this." And she said, "No." She said, "Mom, you know, my daughter, I love her. She says, 'Mom,
Yeah.
God got us.
Yeah.
God got us.'" And and he did all the way. And it was so funny. There was one point where my daughter and I separated, and I'm talking to William. I'm saying, "Okay, William, here we go. We're getting ready to go in. We're getting ready to turn this corner." And it was straight hill, straight up. And little did I know that my daughter and a few of the people that she had met, because she's a socialite, so she met plenty of people going up that hill, and she had sent help my way. Said, "If you see a woman in a yellow sweatshirt, that's my mom. Ask her if
Oh,
she needs some
wow.
help."
That's beautiful.
And I
Mhm.
all the way,
Mhm.
God was with us. All the way, all the way.
So,
It was
what do
beautiful.
you think that you learned from doing that marathon?
Oh my gosh. When I woke up, so if I
Yeah.
can just tell you the story of when I woke up, I had um I had nerves. I
Mhm.
had a lot of nerves. And and I was like, it was a first for us.
Mhm.
It was a first. And so I didn't know what to expect. So I get in my car and I turn on the car. Now look, I've turned that car on thousands of times.
Mhm.
Thousands of times. I get in the car and there's this song that's playing and says, "Put it on
Huh.
the altar." And I said, "This could be no one
Mhm.
but God." It's like, "Take all your cares and cast them on me, put them on the altar." And so I just said, Lord, be with us while
Mhm.
we do this. Let you be glorified." And let me tell you something. That was the most experiencing that entire walk with all these different people and with all of them just there was no competition, because you got to understand that when you're doing a race, you're also
Oh,
getting
yes.
timed. So everyone forgot about their
Mhm.
time in order
I think
to
that's
pass.
beautiful.
And
Yeah.
oh, yeah. And I could do nothing but thank the Lord and just realize how much he is in my life. And um because it was him that got me back up running, because um I had had a
Mhm.
fall. And if you ask me what was one detrimental thing that happened to me, it was when I had this fall. I thought, man, I had retired and my goal was to do a 5 and 10K
Oh,
in every
wow.
state. And yeah, in every state, Toby, I wanted to do a 5 and 10K. Because when I retired, I didn't
Mhm.
retire
You just
in the
transitioned
sense
into a
that
whole
some people
new
just go.
set of Mhm.
I transitioned.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's all
this
I
is
did.
job done.
And I had a fall, and my whole story became
Oh,
about the
wow.
fall. I couldn't talk about anything but
Mhm.
the fall. And, finally, it was, and it felt it I didn't see my way out of it until I just started saying, "You know what, Lord, I'm giving
Mhm.
this to you. I can't keep talking
Mhm.
about this. I can't keep acting like this is going to be my life." And I did. I gave it up. And the next thing you know, I'm back training, I'm back walking, and I'm getting ready to do a marathon
Oh,
workshop. so that I can do a half
Mhm. I
marathon.
think that's beautiful. So, you know, maybe you just didn't know that you had, different kinds of marathons in your life instead of a 5 and a 10K in every state. Maybe you have a different marathon goal
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I actually do. I have some wonderful things that I'm, um, working on and planning
Mhm.
on, and, so yeah,
Yeah, I think that's just
but
beautiful.
it
And
it
so tell me, when I first talked to you about being on my podcast. And I told you that it was a podcast where we talk about hard things, where we talk about difficult journeys and what we learn from them. And your answer to me was, well, I don't know if I'll fit or not because I really don't view my things as difficult or hard. And so tell us a little bit about that because I think, perspective is one of the ways that we can overcome difficult things and hard things because as long as we look at them in a positive light, where we have a spark to just embrace them. So tell me a little bit
yeah,
about William as a child and finding out that you had a special needs child and how you approached that and what a difference it's made in your life having William be a part of it.
yeah. Well, discovering at 18 months old that William was autistic, um, it took me by surprise, and it took my husband by surprise, and, the one thing I really loved about our marriage, and he's
Right.
passed away now, but the one thing I really loved about our marriage was the fact that we were
Mhm.
communicators. We
Yeah,
talked about
I love that
everything.
too. That's how my
And so
marriage is now.
yeah, yeah, I can't even imagine, being a friend with someone that didn't want
Yes.
to communicate or didn't even
Mhm.
learn how to communicate in what they consider to be a relationship with another person. And so, we talked about everything. So we came home with this little cutie. I mean, he was 18 months old, but he was just, he just was a
Mhm.
little cutie. And they said, he's nonverbal. He's autistic. And I thought, okay, all right, well, let's just go from
Mhm.
here. And so we did all the things that every parent does when they find out they have a special needs child. They go through the routine of finding community because community is
Mhm.
very important, and they go through the routine of finding out what they can do. And but William's the one that
How
led me. He's the one that really showed me what he was willing to do and what he was
Mhm.
not willing to do. And I think the one thing he didn't want to have done to him was be
Uh-huh.
labeled. I remember, a few times, he had this thing called a Hawk, and the Hawk he was to use it at school, and he was supposed to press whatever he
Mhm.
wanted to say, and it was pictures and everything like that. And William walked in the house. I think he had done it for maybe 4 or
Mhm.
5 days. He walked in and he put it up on the credenza. And I said, "Well, William, we're supposed to use this here at the house." And so I said, "Well," and I would bring it back down and he put it right
Mhm.
back up. And I said, "Well, I think that's
Yeah.
clear that we're
Yeah.
not gonna do that." And so we
Mhm.
did. And so I never um took him to be I mean, I can read him. If you're around him, it might take you about 10 minutes and then you can read him. He's very
Mhm.
clear on what he wants to do and what he doesn't want to do. So I never felt like I was at a
Mhm.
disadvantage. And I'm always shocked. And it's not like I'm playing that I'm shocked. I really am shocked when someone says, "Oh," and I went, "What happened?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought
Uh-huh.
they saw and 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 they're feeling sorry for me. Don't feel sorry
Yeah.
for me. I think you have to look at how someone responds. I've got a loving
Mhm.
son. And so it's no wonder and no one that knows us didn't expect for us to do anything like this. I mean, they expected us
Mhm.
to do this. It was the norm. It was just how we
Mhm.
live. And I believe that he was given to me that he's a gift, and because I know a lot of things I'm much more conscious about simply because he's
Yes.
in my life. Like, there's people that I wouldn't bring in my life if they if I sense something, or even if William sense, he has a high
Mhm,
sensory thing going
mhm.
on with him. Uh, so I feel sorry, and no, I cannot
Yeah.
compute.
You know, I I can relate to that in a lot of ways. I had a son who was hearing impaired, and I felt like just the fact that we had to do things a little bit differently meant that we had a
That's it.
richer experience in life, So there were I think when you have to slow down a little bit and be aware of what's going on around you, that that's a blessing. You just take so much more from the
It
world around you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's true.
yeah, and then I always made sure I was in the
Mhm.
right
Oh, that's
community
so
of
important.
people.
That's really important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, um, and acceptance was just a big part of that community. Not only just, acceptance of, being different, but acceptances of, a lot of
Mhm.
different things. So yeah, I'm so glad that I have William, and it's every time I look at him, I'm like, I can't believe you're going to be 34. He'll be
Wow.
34 next year
Yeah.
in March. And it's been 34 years, and it seemed like it just
Mhm.
flew by. And so yeah, I'm
Yes, yes.
blessed.
I
I'm
think
truly
that's
blessed.
beautiful. I think you are too. So who has been your most important mentor?
Oh my God. Living, the one that has passed away is
Mhm.
my mom. She was awesome. I watched her be a strong Black woman, and I watched her be around all ethnicities and never, uh, just always felt like there was nothing about not being equal. That kind of thinking, I didn't grow up
Mhm.
with that kind of thinking. So when I hear that kind of thinking, I'm like,
Yes. So
"No,
your
what's
mom
there's no there's
yeah, your
diff."
mom has an amazing story. She, was a professional back in a time, in a generation where there weren't that many professional women. I mean, there just weren't. My grandmother went to
Super She
college,
was
and that was just, like, not the norm, and your mother
Yeah.
was a Black woman at the same time. So, tell me a little bit about what she gave back to your community, because I know she has a school named after her or something, doesn't she?
Yeah, she was in the 1950s, and she, first worked her way to the point of becoming superintendent of schools in, Canton,
Okay.
Ohio. She was the 2nd Black woman in the state, and so her surroundings were so
Mhm,
diversified. So I grew up with diversity. It was a
Yes.
norm for
mhm.
me, and what she did with the community was she was so involved in the kids' lives. Um, like they would come and tell her things that they could not tell their
Mhm.
moms or their teachers or whatever. And I remember many times her one of the things she would do is have a coat drive because people didn't
Mhm.
have coats. And first time that happened was when I saw her come home
Uh,
without a coat. "Where's your coat, mom?" Which wasn't normal
mhm.
for me to ask, but
Yeah.
it was cold outside. But there was another child that had made it to school
Uh,
without a coat. And so that became a project of hers that she made sure everyone had a coat, and she made sure that even as she moved up in the ranks, that she remained
Mhm.
approachable. And so, I had many kids who envied me. They said, "Dr. J is your mom?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's, "Oh, man, you're so lucky. Dr. J is your mom." And I just remember always saying, "Well, you may think I'm lucky, but when Dr. J comes home, Dr. J
Yeah.
is mom." She I don't you may think I get away with things, but I don't get away with things. She makes sure that I am
Yes,
corrected.
yes. Mhm.
And
Yeah,
corrected.
my mom was a
Yeah.
huge mentor in my life too, and, you know, I wish I had paid attention to that earlier in life. My dad was also a very
Mm.
central figure in my life, and I think that he kind of overshadowed my mom, and it wasn't until I went to prison that I realized the strength of character that my mom really had, and I felt sorry that I had not focused on that for all the years I'd had with her before that, but I just didn't, and,
Yeah.
but she certainly was my mentor. Moms are awesome.
And, Toby, I think it also has to do with
Yes, yes.
maturity.
So
You know,
mhm,
I I had to go through the same thing with my daughter, um, who kept looking at me as someone that she would put on a pedestal, and I said, "No, I want you to get to know
mhm,
me. I want you to who
mhm,
I am, and that I also have worked through things, and so I don't want you to walk around here and go, mom, this is just
mhm.
perfect," because that's not presenting you
Right.
with a
Yeah.
um
Pedestals are not a good
with
thing.
a person with those no. And the way I used to look at my mom was if she had told me something, which Sarah shared the same thing with me, even if she had told me, "Karen, I'm working through things," I would have still disclaimed, "Not you, mom.
Yeah.
Not you. You're not doing anything." No, yeah, I am. I have things that I'm working through, and I'm
Mhm,
proud of those things, and I'm proud when I come out the other side. But I wanted her to see me for who I was as a person, always respect me
mhm,
as her mom, but as a person who, is walking this journey with
mhm.
Christ, but still is walking.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I think that's really important. So, what does Sarah do? And how old is Sarah? She's an adult now too, correct?
In a few days, she'll be
28.
28,
Mhm.
um, 28, and she is studying for, she wants to be a
Oh,
military
wow.
police, with the
Oh,
dogs.
yeah. Mhm,
She's she's always been a dog lover, so she wants to be part of the military, army specifically. So she has been training, so which was another reason why she wanted to do the 5K because it gave her another opportunity to run
mhm,
and walk. And so she's training and getting her studying for the
mhm,
ASVAT, studying for training to become physically fit. Because we watched a YouTube video where a woman was carrying a man on her back, and I said, Sarah, I think I have to do that." And she goes, "Ooh, I got to go up some hills more." I said,
Yeah. My
"Yes, that's what she's
my
up to."
husband is a veteran and his son is also, and I love hearing them talk about, the things being in the military. I think it's such a camaraderie and such a community of people that, the rest of us can't relate to if we haven't been there. And I think it's a
Yeah,
really great way to get into a life. So, that's exciting.
yeah,
Yeah, love that.
yeah.
So, tell us about how a turning point in your life propelled you in a new direction, if we haven't already covered that.
Well, um, well, I think one of the things that uh, was significant in my life was I experienced which I experienced and at the same time, it was a gift. It didn't seem that way at first, but I was I was under a management. I'm a retired
Mhm.
registered nurse, and so I have a 40-year history of being in the nursing field, and so I had a manager one time who, I couldn't understand it. She didn't care
Oh.
for me, and I could not relate to why she didn't care for me because I was under the impression that everyone loved me. And and I made no bones about it. It was like, "You get in my presence, you get around me, you're
Uh-huh.
gonna love me because I'm Karen." And, so when this woman didn't care for me and I couldn't understand it, um, and I was always someone that was in a book.
Mhm.
I was always in a book. So it didn't matter to me whether it was a certification I was going to get or whether it was another degree or whatnot. I loved
Mhm.
reading. I just loved it. And so even when I had my downtime at work, you would find me in a book.
Mhm.
And I think there was some of that because I've often tried to recall like what was the thing that made it so, you know, that she just decided that this was what her life was gonna be like when it came to
Mhm.
interacting with me. And, um, she said so one day she said, "Karen, you can't tell people what you
Mm.
think." And I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "Well, when someone asks you a question, you can't tell them what you think." And I said, "Well, if I'm acting in a certain role, shouldn't I tell them what I think? Should especially since I'm in a supervisory position to them and they're asking
Mhm.
me their opinion and this is healthcare and whatnot." And I think my level of confidence, and this is really like coming to me now, like I think my level of confidence and was
Hmm.
threatening for her. And um, so there was a lot of let's just say I'm trying to summarize it,
Mhm.
conflict there that I was being written up for things that made no sense. And I remember going home one day and saying, "I don't understand this, Lord. I just don't understand this. I don't understand what's going on. It makes no sense to me." And then I had this scripture that came to me that said that all things work together for those who love the Lord and are called according to
Mhm.
his purpose. That became my anchor. And as she would bring these little petty things, I would get in my car and I would just scream that
Mm.
scripture out. Like, I know this is working for my good. And I know it is. I know it is. I
Mhm.
know it is. I know it is. And then finally, one day it broke. It was like the levee broke. And all of a sudden she came back to what I call her
Mhm.
senses. And she said, "Oh, Karen, I'm so glad
Ah.
you're here." I wanted to turn around. Excuse me. Is there another Karen back
Interesting.
there?
Yeah.
But she yeah, yeah. But I had that anchor that I held on to because I was like, this too will
Mhm.
end. But meantime, I kept respecting her and so she could never, say that I disrespected her. I
Mhm.
continued to respect her. I continued to support her because she was the manager and I continued giving her ideas about how we could become
Mhm.
greater as a
Yeah.
department and uh it was rough, but I wouldn't
No,
change it.
and
I
you
wouldn't go
probably made
back
a
and
difference
erase.
in her life too. So you changed some of her preconceived conceptions about something, and I bet it had an impact on her for the rest of her life. Mhm. And I was thinking
Let's hope.
too, going back to the marathon with William, and you said something that stuck out to me, and it was that these people were all being timed, and so many of them took minutes off their time to help you push William up the hills. And I think that is so powerful because you look at that as a blessing for you, but I think we don't stop and
Yeah.
look at what a blessing it is for those that we allow the opportunity to give to us. Because giving to
Yes.
someone is so enriching. And there's so many times that people won't let
Yes.
you, "Oh, no, no, we've got it. I can do this." But when you stop and you
Yeah.
let someone help you, you've given them a gift as well as received a gift of their help.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's because society really tells you that, I am woman, hear
Mhm.
me roar. And I don't need anything. But yes,
Yes.
you do. Um, and so allow people to pour into you and give you what they have because you it like you said, it works both
Yes. It
ways.
certainly does.
Yeah.
It's a gift to receive from others just as much as it is to give to others. And a lot of times
Yeah.
we don't accept the
And I
help
think
and we
it's so much.
and it's for that person's good sometimes that we let them help us. So, I think we need to kinda
Yeah.
change the way we think about that.
We
Mhm.
really do. Yeah, because I think people, they go, "Oh, it's better to give," but, you have to
Yes, you
learn how to
do.
receive as
Yes,
well.
and if nobody is open to receiving, then there is no giving happening, and that's not a good place to be.
You gotta have that
Mhm.
exchange. You
Yes,
got
I
to.
agree.
Yeah.
So, what's one question you wish I'd asked?
Well, you started to ask it, and so I'm gonna have you
Okay.
ask it again. You said you asked about the
Yes.
mentor, and I said, "Well, um, passed away." I
Mm,
told you about my mom, but living, I have someone who I just am so grateful to that I wanna share her with the
excellent.
world. Um, and it's so funny because I met all of you guys
Uh-huh.
around the same time. It was the time when, um, you know, I had just finished, health coaching. I had gotten my health coach, degree and, became a life coach, and I started watching this one particular coach. And, one of the things I did, when I first came on Facebook was, I interviewed a
Mhm.
lot of people. And so she was one of the people I interviewed, and her name is Coach Jackie, Jacqueline Barnes to be exact. And, um, I kept wondering why she just struck
Mhm.
me so much and what was it about her. It was, of course, it was how she carried herself. But, I never met her other than just
Mhm.
how I'm meeting you, which
Mhm.
is on camera. And so, but even on camera, she came across different. And so finally, one day, she was saying that she had a group and it's called Leading in Life. So I went ahead and I joined that group. And it's a community of women who are they're in different areas of life. And Monday through Friday, she encourages everyone
Mhm.
in that group. And then Monday through Friday morning, she has this group that's called the Exchange Crew. And it was a Bible study group and it was a Bible
Mhm.
devotion group. And I had been brought up in the rigid religious, and here was someone that I could relate to that was teaching about the Lord in such a beautiful and
Mhm.
inviting way. And I ended up joining that exchange crew, been there with them for a couple years. And these women um, love the Lord. And I've been able to, just come and be who I am and
Mhm.
grow. And that has been a beautiful experience. And I credit it to because I watched her and I watched how
Mhm.
she walked and I watched how inviting she was for you to come and learn. And so, yeah,
Beautiful.
that's
That's
my
beautiful, and
person.
that ties again back to community and how we you were saying at the beginning that community is so important, and community helps get through the things you
Community.
have to get through, and it lifts you up on your way. So I think that's really
Mhm.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is there a question that you'd like to ask me?
Not
Okay,
really.
cool.
I'm glad that you invited me, and, um, and like you've watched me,
Mm,
I've watched you, so you're very
yes.
transparent. Um, and I believe that what I need to know,
Uh-huh.
I know. You
Yes, that's
share.
true.
And,
Yeah, I don't have any
yeah,
secrets.
and so there's
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm one of your biggest, cheerleaders as far as when I see I remember the first time you did a photo shoot, and I was right there like, so so, um, I wanna see
Well,
you do
thank you.
well, and I want to see this community help people, and I believe that's what you're all
Mhm.
about, so I am right there
Well,
with
thank you. I really appreciate that. What's one word that
yes.
inspires you?
Um, I gave that word to my daughter today, and no, just say it, Sarah.
Uh,
Love.
yes, love is so important, isn't it? Yeah. I was
Yeah.
watching a, YouTube video yesterday, and there was some, horrible school shooting or something somewhere, and the mother of one of the children was speaking in court and saying to the person who was being convicted, "I will never forgive you. I choose not to forgive you. I hope you have a horrible life." And I thought, "Oh, you poor thing. You're missing the whole point of forgiveness. It's not about the person who wronged you. Forgiveness is for you because you have to be able to let go and love yourself and love through the pain, and you can't do that with an attitude of unforgiveness."
But you know what, Toby? I'm glad now I'm glad this question came up because um the one thing I realize that people don't know and is often not talked about is the benefit
Yes.
of forgiveness. Because as a nurse, I tell you what, I saw so many people who would carry misery
Mhm.
around with them and they were sick.
Yes.
They were
Mhm.
physically
Yeah.
sick. And I was one of those nurses who, I don't know, people just wanted to tell me things, and so when they started telling me things, one of the things they would end up talking about is, someone that was in their life that they were mad
Mhm.
at, and I said, You're when did this happen?" And it doesn't matter when it happened. It's like if it happened 5 minutes ago or if it happened
Yeah.
50 years ago, and they're
Uh-huh.
still carrying around this
Yeah.
anger, and my thing is, man, when you let that go, the floodwaters will
Oh,
open
yes.
up
That
for
is
you.
so
If
true.
you let it
Mhm.
go.
That is so true.
And 'cause I have another story
Yes. Yes.
if you
Let's
have
do.
time. So, I had someone in my life that I cared about very, very much. Um, it was a 20 plus year,
Mhm.
friendship. And I cared about this individual so much and had helped him, and my husband and I both had helped him many, many times. So, when I started when I started, uh, walking with the Lord, I there were certain things that I just didn't adhere to. So, something he asked me, and I came out and I told him exactly
Mhm.
what I thought, and he got mad. And I mean, not just mad, but
Mhm.
mad. And he was like, "Well, I don't see why you won't do that." And I said, "Because I can't
Mhm.
agree with that. I just can't agree with it." And So in order to get back at me, because he knew how much me and my husband loved him, and um, he said, "Well, how does it feel to love somebody who does not love you back?" And I thought, "Whoa." So initially, after I got off the phone with him, initially I was tore
Mhm.
up. That wrecked me. And I started doing what so many people do was recall. I did this for you. I did that for you, blah, 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 and all that. And then I finally said, but you know what? In order for me to live and thrive and survive and not end up like so many of my patients that I saw that didn't forgive and they were
Mhm.
sick, I said, I cried out to the Lord. I said, Lord, help me to
Mhm.
forgive. Help me to forgive. I need this is a big one. And so I think it took me a steady, consistent, concentrated um
Mhm.
forgiving and understanding that. And this is what I always tell Sarah. I said, Sarah, if someone says something hurting to you, realize that you don't know the whole
Mhm.
story. You don't know the
That's
back.
so
There's something that happened in
mhm.
their lives that has made them the way
Mhm.
they are. And it's up to you to have compassion and have that
Yes.
grace for
Yes.
them. And so I started saying, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what happened to him. But and finally, all of a sudden, I could feel myself release it. And I
Mhm.
forgave. And like I said, it
Mhm.
took me some months to get there, but I was determined to get there. About 7 years later, he comes and he knocks on my door and he says, Karen, and by this time, my husband, he can't talk to my husband because my husband's gone. But um, he says, Karen, I'm
Huh.
so sorry. And I said, bro, I forgave
Yeah.
you a long time
Yeah.
ago.
It is such a gift to be able to forgive and let go of something. Even the most deep wounds, the deep hurts, you still have to let go of them.
Oh, you
Mhm.
have to let go. You have to
Yeah.
let go. And that was why I was interested in
Yeah.
trauma, was because someone describes it as a big T and a small T, but that experience that I had with him was
Mhm.
traumatic for me. And I wanted to know, how did others when I, you know, of course they were two different times, but I really wanted to understand, what do
Mhm.
people do? And if they don't learn or if they don't have people around them that will not feed into that, because you get some people, yeah, they
Yeah,
were wrong.
you
They
shouldn't
shouldn't
be
have done
talking to
that.
them. You were right to cut them
Yeah,
out of your life. Yeah.
yeah. Look, but you need to be in the right community that's going to say, you can
Mhm.
get over this. And I'm here to hold your hand
Yeah.
while you get over it. I'm not going to feed the hate or the angry or the frustration that you have, but I'm gonna hold your hand in love. And I think that's why love is
Mhm.
my word.
Well, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for being on with us today. I just love talking to you, and I
Oh,
think
I
the rest of
enjoyed
the
it.
world's
Thank
gonna
you
love
so
your
much.
story too.
All right. You
Okay,
have a
thanks,
great day.
Karen.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on Fierce Conversations with Toby. Your support and listening means so much to me, and I hope today's conversation makes a difference in your world. If you would like to support this podcast, there are many ways to do so. I found these ways tend to help the most in getting our message out into the world. Number one, subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to or watch this podcast. If you can leave a 5-star rating or a like on this episode on YouTube, that helps even more. And if you leave a comment or a review, that helps the most. The next way you can support Fierce Conversations with Toby is to join our Patreon at patreon.com/fierceconversations. All tiers come with a downloadable digital gratitude journal created by me, and membership in a private Facebook group that I also lead. Most importantly, 10% of all proceeds from your subscription will go directly to donating my workbooks to women in prison. Finally, sharing the link to this show with your friends, family, and anyone who wants to listen is appreciated more than I can say. Thank you again for joining me today and supporting this show by listening to it and sharing it with friends. Fierce Conversations is created and hosted by me, Toby Dorr. Produced by Number 3 Productions. The theme song that you're hearing now, Groovin', was composed and arranged by Lisa Plass. Lisa also plays the flute for the theme, with Carolyn Parody on piano and Tony Ventura on bass. Find out more at tobydor.com. This is Fierce Conversations with Toby. Escape your prison.